All right, welcome back to the Dolphins Country podcast. And today we are with a special guest, JetsCentral. JetsCentral, how are we doing? We're 2 days away. We're about 48, or not 48, about 52 hours away from the NFL draft. How excited are we?
Yeah, man, the official countdown, right? 52.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm pumped. I'm pumped that it's finally here, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Obviously, both of our teams have multiple first round picks in this upcoming NFL draft. So that always makes it more fun for me when we have multiple picks to talk about, and instead of just that one pick on draft night that you came up with on
Right.
obviously on Thursday. So yeah, two picks for you guys. It's 2 and 16 for us. It's 11 and 30. So we'll see what both of these teams do with those picks. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. So basically, how it's going to work is we'll kind of rotate off picking. So I'll pick one, you'll pick two, three, four, so on and so forth. We can kind of alternate like that. I think that the Jets have both even picks, so you can do two, or you can do the even picks, so it's 2 and 16.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can do that, and we can talk in depth about our picks maybe that we make for our own teams. But the other ones we can kind of rapid fire through here, and basically for us it can be like what we think is going to happen or what we want to have happen. So it could be either or. I mean, we can kind of just play around with this. It's not an exact science. I think right now we only know where number one is going. Like I think even right now, if you were to ask Jets fans, is it Reese? Is it Bailey? It might be up in the air. I know I have a Jets buddy who says it could be either one. So we don't really know for sure right now. I think the only one we know right now is Mendoza's going to the Raiders. But right now, with again, like we said, 52 hours for the draft, we're still kind of in limbo with all these picks in the first round. So who knows how it's going to shake out? But we can start here with number one. I mean, I guess I'll go ahead and start the draft here. We have it on the screen share here. It's kind of no surprise who's going number one. It's Mendoza. It's kind of been Mendoza for a while now. So we'll go ahead and give Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders here. And then now here we go. We'll set up the pick for you. Jets at number two overall with the whole board at your disposal. Who are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I'm going to go Arvell Reese. It's no shot at David Bailey. I like David
Yeah.
Bailey a lot. But I think right now, if you're a team in the Jets and you're coming off a 3-win season and you have multiple picks this season, right, 4 within the top 44, and then you have 3 first-round picks next season plus your second, you have the ability right now, if you're this Jets team, to take the big swing on Arvell Reese if he turns into a Von Miller type of player. I mean, I know the comparison that people throw out is Micah Parsons,
Yeah.
which is, obviously a big comparison, but whether he becomes a Micah Parsons or he doesn't, you can still use him in that Parsons role. Like the archetype of player, I think is very important to bring up when talking about different pro comparisons and whatnot. It's not like, oh, he's going to be a carbon copy of this player. It's that same skill set is projected in. And, with him only being 20 years old, I'm just thinking about what this guy can be, in his second season, in his third season. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Reese here for me.
I'm kind of with you there. I think of the players I don't want you guys to take, I think Arvell Reese at the top of that list. So because I think he is, like you said, I think Daniel Jeremiah, who I like Daniel Jeremiah a lot, he has Bailey, I think, one spot ahead of Reese. Because I think he thinks Bailey is like the surefire right now. He'll come in and get you double-digit sacks, whatever it is. But I think with the Jets, who maybe are a couple years away, you don't mind having this guy who I think he's more of a hybrid than a tweener. I think he's not like in between positions because everyone's like, oh, what position does he really play? Right. I think Arvell Reese is one of those guys that genuinely the traits here that's why you see the Micah Parsons comparison so often, because he's that kind of level of athlete. He's got those kind of traits where he can absolutely be one of those dominant pass rushers in the league. And I think the ceiling of an Arvell Reese is like, so high that, you have to, at number two, you're drafting for, for the future, basically, of this franchise. I think he can be absolutely one of the blue chip. I think he's one of the short list of first or second best player in the draft. I really do. And again, maybe we don't know what his position is going to be, but I think with the Jets coaching staff and Aaron Glenn defensively, they're going to have a field day with an Arvell Reese or a David. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. There's a lot of defensive studs in this draft class. I think at the top, it's a lot of defensive heavy guys, but I think Arvell Reese at the top of that, top of the food chain there. 3 at Arizona, it's tough. I think to me, this team was dead last in sacks last year. I think they were bottom 3 in sacks last year. So to me, I'm going to pick David Bailey here. I don't know if they will. I think Arizona might want to trade back potentially, but again, Jeremiah Love here as well. But to me, I would stick and pick David Bailey to me. But I'm not running the Cardinals. But that's what I think they're going to do. If I had to guess 2 days out, I would guess that Arizona sticks and takes a David Bailey from Texas Tech.
Man, you stole my guy here. Okay, so for the Titans, I was going to go with David Bailey.
Yeah, Robert Saleh. What's he going to do now?
Yeah, I'm not really buying the whole Jeremiah Love stuff. I mean, that's just kind of my personal opinion, but I just can't see a defensive-minded head coach in Robert Saleh who needs to win with his front four and who will not blitz to not take a pass rusher in a pass, in a class like this.
Yeah.
There's also some pretty heavy links with Sonny Styles to the Titans I've seen.
Right.
But the mainstream kind of continues to plug Love in at 4. I don't like it. I would rather go Ruben Bain here.
Yeah.
But I guess for the sake of it, we'll just go with Jeremiah Love. I don't know with this whole, Bain off field thing. I don't know how much that's going to impact his stock.
Right.
So if I was running the Titans, I would go Bain, but Jeremiah Love here, I guess for Tennessee.
I'm kind of with you. I think again, Robert Saleh, to me, to start a rebuild, I want to get my hands on a blue chip prospect. I think Ruben Bain's one of the 5 best players in the draft. But like you said, that off field thing, the incident that it did happen a couple years ago, but maybe that kind of affects his draft stock. I honestly wouldn't hate if Tennessee does go skill position player and the board looks like this. I wouldn't hate sliding back a few picks and going like Carnell Tate or going outside receiver, because I'm totally with, you have to help out your young quarterback. Like, Cam Ward did not have much around him last year. I know they signed Wan'Dale Robinson, but you want to surround him with a little bit more than that. So I don't hate the Love pick here at 4. It is a little rich for running backs, obviously. But even if they slid back and took a playmaker at receiver or whatever, or again, they did take back-to-back offensive linemen in Skoronski and Latham and in the 24 and 25 or the 23-24 classes before taking Cam Ward. So we'll see. They got a lot of needs, but I'm kind of with you there. That feels like a safe pick right now, or at least the one that we kind of see on the projections of the mocks. So I'm kind of with you for Jeremiah 11-4 there. For the Giants, if it was me here, I'm taking Sonny Styles. But apparently the leaks this week, I don't know if you've seen them, are that maybe it's not Sonny Styles for them. Maybe it's Washington at 7. I don't know where Styles is going, but to me, for the Giants, it makes so much sense to take Sonny Styles here. It feels like that would be an emphatic pick to start this John Harbaugh regime off with. But man, I don't know. Like Maui Noah would be sick for them as well. Tate, I know they've been linked to Tyson down there at 10. I don't know. I think for me, this is tricky. I think with one of their top 10 picks, they're going to try to help out Jackson Dart. I think it's going to come at 10. So I'll go ahead and take Sonny Styles. I don't know. I don't think he's going there, though. I really don't. All right. I'm going to take Francis Mauigoa. This is a weird one, but I think that they're going to try to protect Jackson Dart with one of these 2 picks here at 5 or 10. I don't know if it'll be a receiver to help him out, whether it's Tyson or Tate or whoever, or an offensive lineman like Mauigoa. Again, Andrew Thomas, love Andrew Thomas. He's had some problems staying on the field. So maybe Francis Mauigoa is the top of their board there. To me, I would take Sonny Styles, but apparently, again, I'm just going on the reports here that maybe he's not their guy. So I'll take the safe tackle here that could also play guard in Francis Mauigoa.
Yeah, so for the Browns here, I think I'm going to go Carnell Tate. They've been linked heavily to offensive line, which I think, it obviously makes a ton of sense. But for me, like, I think they've done a great job of addressing every need outside of left tackle on the O-line. And for the left tackles, I think it's a bit too high for Freeling. I think it's definitely in my personal opinion, too high for Caden Proctor.
Yeah.
But Carnell Tate, he's not going to be there at pick 23 or 24, wherever the Browns are exactly at.
Yeah, 24.
I feel like I can maybe go out and get like a Caleb. I mean, we'll see how the draft plays out, but maybe a Lomu, maybe a Proctor. He's there for me at that position. So just go get a sure thing, right? And also, Carnell kind of feels like a type of player for Cleveland that they just don't have at this point, like a big-bodied, safe 50-50 ball type of player who's fluid. So, yeah, Tate for me.
I'm kind of with you there. It feels like for the Browns, it's either Tate or an offensive lineman. It has to be offense for Cleveland, you would think. And I like the Tate pick there. To me, this is where Sonny Styles, like if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm sprinting this pick in. Sonny Styles, to me, of the linebackers, like of the true linebackers, because Reese is more of a hybrid. To me, Sonny Styles is the best of this group for sure. Absolute captain, checks every box. I think he's Daniel Jeremiah's second or third best player in the draft behind Love and I believe somebody else. But a lot of people who I respect love Sonny Styles. So I think for Washington, who kind of needs a lot of everything, they're a bit of an older roster, a bit of an expensive roster, had a lot of injuries last year. To me, to jumpstart this defense with the Sonny Styles right in the middle of it would be a great value down here at 7.
Yeah, so for the Saints at spot number 8, I think I would go Ruben Bain here. I mean, he checks a couple different boxes. We know that Staley wants to run, a multiple defense. I don't think that Bain has to really come off the field. Helps out against the run, can rush the passer, can rush from the outside or the inside, can take on doubles, shoot gaps. I think Ruben Bain to replace Cam Jordan, I think makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely agree. I couldn't agree less. Like, I think this is right where his range is around here. I think, again, if it was me, I think that range would start at 4 at Tennessee, but it looks like from what the draft people are saying that it's like 7, 8, 9 is where Ruben Bain possibly goes. I think it's a great landing spot for New Orleans, who's got a really sneaky good defense. For Kansas City here, this is weird because Kansas City is almost never going to be picking this high. Like this is not a spot where they're ever going to be. You wouldn't think in the Pat Mahomes era at least. This is a tough one here. They've been linked to a couple of receivers. They've been linked to a couple of offensive linemen. I mean, if it's me here, I'm probably taking Caleb Downs. They could obviously they've lost a couple guys in their secondary this off season. They've been linked heavily to Fanu. I don't know. This could be anything here. I think for me, I'm going to go ahead and go Caleb Downs. Maybe a little bit rich for a safety, but I just think he's the best football player on the board. And I think Kansas City's got an eye for talent. So I think if Caleb Downs is here at 9 or 10, as a Dolphins fan, I want him to be available at 11. But I'm gonna be realistic here. I think he's gonna probably come off the board before 11. So I think the Chiefs maybe Washington potentially, maybe the Giants here at 10. I think Downs is gonna go off the board here with one of these picks. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of hedge and say maybe Kansas City, who could really use a difference maker in that secondary, goes ahead and takes Caleb Downs here.
Yeah, they lost Brian Cook
Right.
to the Bengals. So for the Giants here, man, I got to be honest. I think corners is kind of an underrated need for them. They lost Watt in free agency. I think if you have the choice here, pick number 10. I would go Mansour Delane. I'm a huge Jermon McCoy fan. But supposedly there's some more injury stuff. So I think Mansour Delane at pick number 10. I mean, it's essentially you're trading Dexter Lawrence in that contract for the perceived CB1 in the class.
Right. 100%. A defensive stud, I think, is guaranteed to be here at 10. I don't know if it's going to be Downs or Delane. I don't think Styles will make it to 10. So we'll see. I think at 5, you're going to know. I think whatever they do at 5 is going to dictate what they do at 10. So I'm kind of with you there. They're guaranteed to get 2 really good players. So I think that's good value here for sure. For us, man, I think we've been linked heavily to Fanu with the versatility that he has. To me, again, if it's me drafting, I think Venga Ioane is the better player. Personally, I think he's a plug and play 10-year starter at guard. Fanu has the versatility to play either one. I think he's better as a guard if he kicks inside. I think this has to be one of these two. With the way the board shakes for me here, I think it has to be one of these two players. I know Lemon's sitting here as well at 15, but I think at 11. But I think at 30 you're going to see some options at receiver. I don't think at 30 you're going to see the level of offensive lineman that you have here on the board right now with Fanu, with Freeling, and with Ioane. I would take Ioane here, but I think, gun to my head, I think they'll take Spencer Fanu if he's available at 11. So I think that's what they're gonna do. So I'm gonna stick with what I think is more realistic than the other two. So I'm gonna take Fanu here at 11, and they get that versatility at tackle or a guard where they badly need a right guard. With James Daniels only playing 4 snaps last year for them, and then obviously Austin Jackson. This is the last year he's gonna be on the team. Most likely. So Fanu can play either right tackle or right guard, and that would definitely help you would absolutely start a rebuild. I would rather personally start a rebuild with an offensive lineman than a receiver. It is more of a luxury position, so I would take the offensive lineman here in Fanu.
Yeah, plus it's a wide receiver deep class. I mean, with all the picks that the Dolphins have, like, man, they can use one of those. They have picked 43, but they could also use one of the thirds on them. So for Dallas, man, I think I'm going to go Jermon McCoy. I know there is the injury stuff, but supposedly some teams are completely fine with it, and some teams he's off the board with and also too, man, very weird timing with this whole thing. I mean, if ever you whenever you hear the word like degenerative knee, a week before the draft, I mean, we didn't hear that all season. We didn't hear that all when he played. We didn't hear it at all the season that he missed. Throughout the entire training or the entire postseason, from really January throughout the pre-draft process, didn't hear about it. He goes to the combine, didn't hear about it there. And then we get to the pro day, he dominates the pro day. So he is healthy right now.
He's very healthy.
And he's ready to go. So supposedly it's something that can pop up like years from now. I could see him being like this season's Will Johnson, but at this point, because it's popping up so late, I mean, was this just maybe, I'm no doctor here, but is it potentially a situation where maybe this is floated out to maybe hurt his stock a little bit so he falls? I'm not sure.
Possibly, yeah. I know, like you mentioned, Will Johnson, good point. Like last year, he slips to day 2, and no one really had that on their bingo cards. It could happen, but I'm kind of with you here too. Like he tears his ACL, misses the whole year, but he's healthy now. It's not like he's currently like Chris Bell is currently, I believe, rehabbing from an ACL.
Yep. Yep.
receiver from Louisville. So McCoy's been healthy for a while now. So that report coming in, maybe it's to scare teams away. Maybe it truly is something that is more like a chronic, that it's going to come down later on and down the line issue type of thing. But either way, I think Dallas so desperately needs really just defensive starters on that defense. So I'm kind of with you there with McCoy, whether it's at 12 or I guess at 20 here. They're going to get an opportunity to take a really good defensive player. For the Rams here, I'm kind of going back and forth. It could be a tackle, could be Lemon. I really am. I'm kind of picturing Sean McVay and the Rams looking at Mekhi Lemon, and it's just like, okay, is it the last year of Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua? You know, the off-field stuff's been a little bit weird. Do we just go ahead and we're so close? We're maybe like one piece away from a Super Bowl title. Do you just go ahead and get another guy to kind of he'd be a third receiver for sure, but it's like a starter in this draft that maybe doesn't have the depth at obviously it has a depth at this position, but in the first round you only have one first round pick now because you did trade that other pick for McDuffie. I think at this point, I think I'm leaning Mekhi Lemon, but I can see Freeling here as well. I think I'm going to go Lemon though. I think the Rams, this would be the sexy pick. I think that gun in my head, I think they would want to add Mekhi Lemon to that room.
Nice. So for Baltimore here, I think I'm going to go with Vega.
Yeah.
You know, you can definitely argue a wider Jordan Tyson here, but you know,
right.
Look, Jesse Minter's coming in from working with Jim Harbaugh, who is known for building out the trenches first, then attacking wide receiver. And also, too, man, like you got to keep Lamar upright. He missed time last season due to injury. You're talking about a potential extension. Don't overthink it. Go out and get the best or one of the projected best interior offensive linemen in the class who's plug and play, ready to go now.
I think he's such a Raven, too. He's such an AFC North 10-year guard, smash mouth. I love the pick there. With Tampa, man, they need to get after the quarterback so badly. Sadiq's interesting here, you know, for sure. To me, I'm kind of between Mesidor and Falk. I think that they need to get a pass rusher. I really do. This Bucs team really struggled on third down to get after the quarterback. To me, it's like Mesidor is funny. He's 25 years old. Falk's only 20 years old. So it's really, what do you want? If you're a contender and you're close to, you know, potentially competing or contending, I would lean Mesidor because I think he's right now refined as a pass rusher. I think he's going to come in day one and be really, really good. But like if it was the Dolphins, for example, I would prefer a Keldrick Falk. Like we're not a team that needs to win right now. So I'd like to grow with like a 20-year-old in Keldrick Falk, whose best football is you know, way down the line ahead of him, I think. But for Tampa Bay, I think they're more of the mindset that they are competing and they're contending. So I'm going to take Mesidor here at 15, maybe a little bit rich, but I think they need a pass rusher really, really bad. And again, the 25-year-old is going to come in immediately and kind of wreak havoc. So I like Mesidor here. Of the two, I think of the two pass rushers that are the best available, I think it's him and I think it's Falk. And I think in this scenario, I think Tampa Bay would lean that. If they don't go, you know, skill guy, Sadiq, I'm going to lean Mesidor here at 15.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I think Mesidor would be a great fit for Tampa. And also Bowles kind of on the hot seat a little bit. So for the Jets, I think it would probably be Jordan Tyson here, right? You got to get some more explosive pieces offensively, take some of the pressure off of Garrett Wilson. Frank Reich, new offensive coordinator coming in. I think he's going to want to work with the guy who can get open maybe by himself a little bit. And if you're projecting in the future, Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, and Jordan Tyson, that's a nice young trio of wide receivers to kind of grow with, assuming Jordan Tyson stays healthy, which is a major concern. And personally, I'm not really sold on that. But this is something that I could definitely see the Jets doing.
Yeah, and you saw the workout he had the other day where he looked healthy, looked very healthy. Obviously, the medicals look like checked out fine. But we'll see. Now his stock he could go possibly top 10. But if not, it feels like these are receiver landing spots, potentially Jets at 16, potentially LA or Baltimore, and obviously potentially the Dolphins too, where like receiver is a very big need. So he could go in any of these landing spots. But I think at 16, it's just like the value here is too good. And obviously the Jets need a receiver badly. For the Lions, what was once a big strength of the Lions has suddenly become a bit of an issue. It's offensive line. And I think the most athletic guy in this draft at offensive tackle certainly is Monroe Freeling. He's an athletic specimen. I think the Lions and Dan Campbell specifically will have a lot of fun if they add him here at 17 to kind of bolster up that offensive line. Jared Goff took some shots last year. You got to keep him upright.
Yeah, so for the Vikings, very, very boring pick, but I think it's either going to be Thieneman. I could see if Jermon McCoy's on the board, I could see the Vikings maybe taking him.
Right.
Or defensive tackle, but it just feels maybe a little bit too early for guys like Peter Woods and Caden McDonald and whatnot. I could see it, but for me right now, I think Thieneman has been the steady favorite to go to Minnesota. So I guess I'll just kind of stick there.
Yeah, no more Harrison Smith kind of back there, so you can kind of find that replacement. I don't hate the pick at all. I think it's kind of been linked and it's properly linked. For Carolina here, I think I'm gonna go back-to-back Ducks here, which is kind of funny. I think Sadiq here is kind of a I think their GM Dan Morgan said I wouldn't rule it past. There's no rule in can't draft a receiver 3 years in a row. I don't think any receiver here would warrant going 19, but I think Sadiq would potentially warrant going 19. Again, an athletic specimen, combine warrior. I think that adds another a big possession receiver in that room, obviously the tight end room, but it helps out Bryce Young again, which is kind of what you need to do here. So that'd be 3 years in a row of them going pass catcher in round 1, which is kind of funny. But I think that he's the best player on the board, I think, possibly for them. So, and again, if it's a need, so I think Carolina could add Kenyon Sadiq here from Oregon.
Nice, yeah, I love that fit. So for Dallas, man, I'm going to go with Keldrick Falk, someone who can like instant impact against the run, can play in a 4-3, 3-4, outside, inside, can play at bigger weights, or if he wants to trim down, he can play at a lighter weight. He just was asked to do so much at Auburn. Kind of feels like he's being slept on a little bit because he doesn't have the crazy sack production. But I think if you look at his role and what he was asked to do, he wasn't. They asked him to play inside and do some of the dirty work and move around a little bit. So I think Keldrick Falk at pick number 20, man, the upside with him is crazy. After securing a corner at pick number 12. So yeah, Dallas Falk for me.
They need 2 defensive starters badly here at 12 and 20. Again, Keldrick Falk's only 20 years old, so his best football is way ahead of him. I'm kind of with you here. I'm kind of praying he makes it to 30. I don't think he will, obviously. I'm hoping he drops a little bit in the draft, and because he'd be a great, again, for our scheme, we need a good run defender at edge for him to set the edge there. I think for Pittsburgh here, it's very interesting. You see the needs here; it's all offense because Pittsburgh again. No surprise here. I personally love Omar Cooper. I think there's a bit of maybe a smaller Rushy Rice, but I think for Pittsburgh again, not really a team that known for going receiver that early, but when they do draft receivers, they're usually good receivers. Maybe they leave afterwards for other reasons, but they're usually good players. I think Omar Cooper here is a really, really good player. I think what his skill sets are fit today's modern NFL, where it's just like yak, get the ball in his hands, watch him work. Really, if Aaron does come back, he'd be a really good safety valve. Shallow crosses, watch him get the ball in his hands and watch him do his work. I think Omar Cooper's really good here. It could obviously be tackle. You can see maybe a Caden Proctor here. They've had issues there in revolving doors on the offensive line. It was actually pretty good last year, the offensive line, but they've still had issues at tackle. I'm going to take Omar Cooper, though, and we get a weapon that would join a Michael Pittman Jr. and DK Metcalf receiver room over there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so with the Chargers here, I think it's really going to come down to who do they value more, interior offensive lineman or defensive, interior defensive lineman. And I think for me, even though I'm not the highest on this player, I think I'm going to go with Caden Proctor.
Of course,
and stick him at guard. He feels like a very Harbaugh type of player. Personally, I think he's more of a guard than a tackle. I felt like when he struggled, it was maybe out in space, and when there was some more thinking for the defensive end, like I can really set this guy up in open space and really get Proctor thinking about it. If he has protection on the inside and on the outside, and he could just play downhill with his size and strength in a Harbaugh offense, I think that could be a really sweet fit.
Yeah, and they have to keep Justin Herbert upright. We saw that playoff game against New England. For Philly here, every Eagle fan I've talked to says we are addressing the offensive line because Lane Johnson, this is it. This is the last year for him. I'm going to mispronounce his name here, but Max out of Arizona State, Hachor, I think is how you say it.
Ian Hachor,
Yeah, so I'm taking him here. I've seen a lot of good things with him. I think, again, Howie Roseman got to protect Jalen Hurts up front. I know they're possibly going to lose A.J. Brown here, but I would not take a receiver here with the guys on the board. I think 23, maybe a little bit rich for me. I like Concepcion, but a little bit small. Boston, kind of a one-trick pony. I would personally take offensive tackle here, knowing that it's the end of the road here, possibly for Lane Johnson. You kind of see the writing on the wall here, and the depth behind him last year was not very good. So he has been missing some games, and obviously the depth behind him was not great last year for the Eagles. So I would take a tackle here and Max, and kind of build up that trench play that won the Eagles Super Bowl 2 years ago.
So can you swap over to the tackle position real quick?
Yes, tackle. Let's see.
Ideally, I think Blake Miller is probably better right now than Caleb Lomu, but he's on the right side. I don't necessarily think Cleveland needs to win, or like speed up the rebuild. Caleb Lomu to me is young. He's athletic. He has great feet, good production this past season. I feel like he's someone with a lot of potential, a big ceiling in my opinion. I think he
Yeah.
actually makes a ton of sense for San Francisco. But if Caden Proctor's off the board, if the other, Fano and everybody else is gone, Ian Achor,
Yeah.
like even if some of these guys were on the board, I think Caleb Lomu could very well be the pick here. So yeah, I'm going to go Lomu here with Cleveland and
Yeah,
Carnell
we got
Tate
to
at
run.
4-6.
How about a run on tackles here? 3 straight tackles. I'm kind of with you though. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Lomo 100% would make sense with San Francisco again, with behind Trent Williams possibly as the next guy after him. For Chicago, this has to be defense in my opinion. Really struggled to get the quarterback late last season. CJ Allen, really good. I think that again they lost a linebacker. I'm gonna go Caden McDonald here. It's either him or Peter Woods to me. I don't know who specifically Chicago would like more, but again, you have to be better against the run this year. I would personally go with McDonald a little bit over Peter Woods, but I think that could be any one of these interior defensive linemen. Not necessarily a star in the interior defensive lineman class, but there's 3 really good players that probably could potentially find themselves in the back end of round 1 here. I don't think any of them's going to go like top half of the first, but I think right here on these teams that need to stop the run, like Chicago or like a San Francisco or those teams, I think you could absolutely see Buffalo right here, potentially teams taking some interior defensive guys.
Yeah, so for the Bills, this is one of the toughest teams to mock for because I feel like they have so many needs figured out.
Yeah.
But they are switching over to a 3-4 defense. They have a new defensive coordinator. No more Joey Bosa. No more AJ Epinesa. I mean, I know he's a free agent. I guess he could come back, but in a 3-4, man, I think the one area that they lack is speed, rush off the edge. And Cassius Howell, to me, I think the SEC Player of the Year. Yes, he has the shorter arms. Yes, there are some measurable concerns, but to me, I think if you can use him as a designated pass rusher and just have him fly off the edge on third downs, fresh legs, I really like that.
I'm kind of upset here. I wanted to make it a 30, but I'm still with it. To Cassius Howell, and again, you pair him up. Buffalo did add Bradley Chubb, who obviously we had to release. So Buffalo, need to get after the quarterback because again, last year against Denver, no sacks in the playoffs. Have to get pressure on the quarterback in January to have any shot at winning a Super Bowl. San Francisco, this is tough for them because I think all their guys went off the board here. In my opinion, this will be a trade back for the Niners. Pass rusher and offensive lineman not really here that much. This is tricky. I kind of want to put Emmanuel McNeil Warren just because I think he's such a good player. I don't know if he
comes off this early, but they do like KC Concepcion.
Yeah, you might be right about that. They didn't re-sign Juwan Jennings, so that could be another thing. And again, Mike Evans is a little bit older. So KC would be an interesting pick here. Kind of with Shanahan offense, that would be a really interesting fit. I could kind of
I don't know about you, but I don't buy the whole Ayuk is gonna be here. I think he's gonna be gone. So
I do too. Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. Mike Evans. I think they could use one more guy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Pearsall Evans again, not bringing back Juwan Jennings, and I don't think Ayuk's gonna come back either. I'm kind of with you there. So absolutely, if the board shakes out this way, I can see them sliding back a little bit because again, you have all the tackles are off the board, all the pass rushers are off the board mostly. So I think at this pick, whether it's at 27 or they slide back to take him, I think KC is a really good pick here for San Francisco.
Yeah, so for Houston, man, it's interesting. Peter Woods, I think, can make a lot of sense here, but I think I'm going to go with Blake Miller. If I'm not mistaken, I think Houston hasn't done because they traded Titus Howard to the Browns. So he's going to slide in over there. Sounds pretty big extension. But let me just double check. Oh, actually, you know what? Houston signed. Let me see. Is there a way to undo that pick? I forgot to sign Braden Smith from Indianapolis.
Let's see here.
Right up at the top next to settings.
Oh, undo. There you go. Right, perfect. Yep.
Yeah. So scratch that. I'm going to go Peter Woods here for Houston. I forgot. I knew they signed one offensive lineman to go along with Ursary, but I forgot it was Smith.
I'm kind of with you here. I think of the two Clemson guys, funny enough, I think Peter Woods is definitely the better player. So if it comes down to just BPA. Over need. Again, they could obviously use help on the offensive line, but they can obviously use help here as well. I think the better player here is just Peter Woods. And if you want, you can do Kansas City as well, because I'm gonna try to do the Dolphins one at 30. So you can go back to back here and go 29 here for the Chiefs. I forgot that the Dolphins actually have an even pick here. So KC at 29. I think you took or I took Downs here with the first pick. So let's see. Kansas City has another first round pick, obviously, here at 29. What do you think they do here?
Yeah, I mean, this is tough, man, because Blake Miller, I think, slides in and could pick up and roll. But I also think that I mean, some of these corners look pretty intriguing, but I don't
Yeah,
know if they would go back-to-back defensive backs,
right.
especially if
They did.
Caleb Downs is
Yeah,
playing the nickel. So I think either Blake Miller for me or Denzel Boston. Um,
yeah,
I,
yeah. It's
you
true
know
because
what?
they did. Yeah, they lost
I'll,
McDuffie,
I'll,
but they, yeah.
I'll go Blake Miller because I don't know if you want Boston at 30. I'm kind of cheating here, so I'll go
I
Blake Miller here for the Chiefs.
I actually was not going to go Boston at 30. Believe it or not, again, it's the Dolphins have so many needs here. I was kind of thinking, I was hoping Howell really, but I would be totally more than okay with TJ Parker here with the Jeff Halfley defense.
Okay.
Considering I didn't go defense in at 11, I think that Jeff Halfley's going to come out of this draft at least in round one with one defensive player. I don't know who it's going to be specifically, but I think he wants to add one defensive player. So if it falls like this, I would personally take Parker over Boston. I think they're in day two. There's some good receivers still out there. So 29 for the Chiefs. You're still going Miller, or you think Boston here for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I'll go Miller here for KC.
Miller, yeah. I'm kind of with you. I think they possibly could be linked to tackle at 9. I wouldn't be shocked if they went in that direction there either. You gotta keep Mahomes upright. So I'm going to take here. I think we took, let's see what it is. Took Fanu at 11. I think to me defense is calling my name here, and I think TJ Parker again a good run defender. So I think he can set the edge in this new Jeff Halfley defense. Obviously new defense because we had McDaniel last year at offense and Anthony Weaver as their defensive coordinator. So now new defense here. The Packers guys are coming in. I think they want to address that. 3 straight Clemson guys here going is pretty funny. But I think they come out of this draft with at least a starter on the defensive side of the ball. You get one offensively. Now you want to again the pass rush group for the Dolphins right now is kind of bare to none. It's Chop Robinson and then it's a bunch of guys that not a lot of people have heard of. I mean David Ajabo. It's a lot of vet minimum guys that we had no money to sign anyone, so we kind of just bring in a bunch of rotational pass rushers. But I think if one of these pass rushers like a Howell or like a Parker was to fall, or hopefully Kendrick Falk, if one of those guys is to fall, I would love for the Dolphins to pounce on one of those guys at 30. Or if the receiver falls too, if a Concepcion was to fall, Boston certainly is in play here as well. To me, I think the best player is Parker, so I would go with him at 30 here.
So for 31 here with the Pats, man, even though they signed Romeo Doubs, and I mean, I guess it really depends on where you stand with this whole AJ Brown thing.
Right.
I guess right now it's looking like he is going to be a Patriots, even though I think Denzel Boston with Drake May, like him just lobbing it up, I think that makes a ton of sense.
It's a good fit,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, but because of this whole AJ Brown thing, I guess I'll pass. CJ Allen's an interesting option because he's ready to go right now. Tons of SEC production. Kind of looks like a pinball out there, just like bouncing off of blocks, like very disruptive in the running game. I think he has good instincts. And I think Mike Vrabel is going to want to continue to, especially again, projecting AJ Brown coming in. You already added Romeo Doubs. I personally think that, Drake May is going to take another step forward, unfortunately, for both of us. But
you're right. Yeah.
I think it's like the strength of that football team is their defense and just how consistent they are. Let's go out and add a plug and play day one impact, day one starter who's going to be a positive player right out of the gate at a position of need.
I'm kind of with you here. I think that's such a Vrabel pick too. I really hope that they aren't as good as they were last year, but it does feel like AJ Brown's a post June 1st addition to the team, which means another weapon for Drake May, who in the Super Bowl, I feel like there were maybe 2 wide receivers short. Now you have Romeo Doubs, and now you have potentially AJ Brown. It's like, okay, now they're loading up there, so maybe we'll address defense here in the draft. So last pick here of this draft, I really like Colton Hood. I would be surprised if he falls to day 2. I think he's a really good player. So I think with Seattle here, I know potentially running back to replace Kenneth Walker. To me, 32 a little bit too rich for me at running back because after Love, there's a big drop off in talent. I think Colton Hood, you lose Tariq Woolen. I think they just can't have enough DBs back there. We saw what they do in the Super Bowl. They play a lot of nickel, so they're in a lot of 5 DB sets, sometimes even 6. Like they can play with a lot of DBs on the floor on the field at the same time. So I think with Mike McDonald, keep adding to that already stacked room. I like Colton Hood the most out of all these guys here. So I would take him with the last pick here, and that concludes the draft. That's a pretty. I don't know if we nailed the whole thing, but I feel like we helped some teams out for sure.
I liked a lot of these picks. Some of them, I think the one thing that we did a pretty good job with is securing needs while also not reaching on players.
Right. It's mostly in the range that they're projected to go in anyways. So I'm kind of with you here. That's a pretty good look at them. I think for me here at 11, and you can speak to the Jets angle of it at 2 and 16. I would be totally fine with any one of Maui Noah, if Bain was to somehow fall to 11, I'm totally jumping all over that. Downs, I think he's just a phenomenal football player. Delane, I mean, this Dolphins cornerback room is really it's not a not a lot of household names. I would love a Mansour Delane in this Jeff Hafley defense. But Fanu, whether it's Fanu or Ioane, I think if you start a rebuild with an offensive lineman, I would be very hard for me to disagree with it and be upset about it. Because I think that's ultimately the smart thing to do when you're starting a rebuild like this. For Lemon and Tyson, both of them really good players. To me, I think you can get I'm not a similar caliber player, but I think you can get good value at down here in the 20s and 30s with receivers as well. So I think for me, 11, whether I would not be upset with Tyson or Lemon, I would probably prefer one of the other guys in this range here of like 7 to 16. So what about the Jets? Who are you hoping for Thursday night?
Yeah, so really a two-man between Reese and Bailey. I personally lean Reese, but if we come away with David Bailey, cool. Like I'm not going to complain. I think literally the second he puts on a Jets helmet, he's the best pass rusher on the team. And if you can say legitimately, we have just signed added a player that becomes number one at the positional group, and he hasn't even played a single down yet. And we're talking about a massive position in rushing the passer. I think that's a win.
Yeah.
But at 16, this is where things kind of open up. I think ideally Lemon is the one who I want to fall.
Right.
But to be honest with you, I know this might be a little like too cute, but I think if we could trade back, right, go from 16 to like say 23 with the Eagles, maybe grab a 3rd round pick because we don't have one, and then be able to grab Omar Cooper at 23 or Casey Concepcion at 23. So we're like still adding a wide receiver 2 in our offense, plus adding, whether it's
third,
a 3rd round pick or maybe even a pick next season. I think that would be the most ideal for me because we also have pick 33. So
yes,
I think one of those guys is going to be there. I mean, from this board,
Denzel Boston's there.
Neil Warren, Denzel Boston. So
100%. Yeah, you guys have 3 of the top 33. So 16, I think if you were to slide back and get still a starter player, still a really good player in this draft, like a high-end player, that would make a lot of sense. Because some people are saying, would they trade up from 16 to potentially lock in one of those 3 receivers? I think for you, what you hit on the head was possibly slide back a few spots, still get an extra pick, and then still get a player that you really like, whether it's Concepcion or Cooper.
Totally. Sorry, my cats were fighting, so I had to split it up.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. There's a lot of. I mean, we also have pick 44. One guy who I'm pretty high on at 44 is Jacob Rodriguez. I think that'd be awesome. So but you guys are, man. Like I really don't think 33 and 2 are similar to me. Where it's just like no matter who we pick, man, I really feel like it's going to be someone who you're just kind of looking at saying, you know what, he makes sense. He fills a need. He's a good player, good value. Because with these top end picks, man, it just feels very, especially if you're not going quarterback, which I guess the Jets could still do.
Right. Ty Simpson, maybe at 33.
Yeah. It doesn't really feel like you're just, it feels like when you have these top round picks, and you're not going quarterback, it's difficult to draft a bust. Like I feel like if you're going wide receiver, we still have busts like Deion Jordan to Miami and everything, but I don't mean to bring that up.
No. Yeah, so totally fair. It's a good point. I think where you're at and where I'm at, same thing. I think you're just guaranteed to get a good football player. Like you're sitting here too, whether it's Reese or Bailey, you're getting a phenomenal football player. And then at 16, I think you're going to get a really good football player. And then 33, same thing. Like I think there's good players in this exact same. I think honestly, from 24 on, you're getting a bit of like similar players in the same tier, I think, of players. So I think like 24, 23, like look at 33, 43. I think there's like 30 players in a pool of 30 players. I think they're all pretty good players. Like I think they're all like the depth of this draft is pretty good. I think there's obviously some high end talent right here up to like, the first 14 picks, maybe you're hoping you're getting a blue chip prospect potentially. But if it's 16 and the board is like, whatever, we can slide back and still get a guy we really like. I'm kind of with you on that one as well. So overall, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's 2 days away. We'll see how this goes. I'm totally fine with, I thought we won too many football games down the stretch at 11 to kind of get who I really wanted to get. But seeing how the board looks now, I'm kind of like, I'm totally good with however it falls. I would prefer one of these 3 guys right here in Bain, Downs, and Delane. If we are going to go defense, I hope it's one of those 3 guys. But if it's not defense and it's an offensive lineman or it's a receiver, totally good with Fanu. I really like Ioane. I think he's a plug and play stud. And then if it's Tyson or Lemon, I'm totally fine with that too. I'd prefer to sort of rebuild, with the trench play or with a defensive stud for Jeff Hafley to kind of toy around with. But I'm in the same boat as you. I think both of our teams could definitely use some starters in this draft. For you guys, you have 3 in the top 33. We have 7 top 94 picks, so we kind of have to ace the draft to get 7 starters to be a really fun, like we really do. It's a lot of, like, for ours, we have to nail this draft. Like, this is kind of where and John Elder Sullivan, the GM, has said it. Like, this is where we have to make our bread, because again, we have so many vet minimum contracts for this upcoming season because of all the dead cap money that we have on this 2026. Yeah, on the books for 2026. So the draft has to be where we make our bread and butter here. Same thing for the Jets. Obviously, this is kind of like the lifeblood. This is like the nucleus of the team. For a rebuild, you want to have to obviously surround Geno Smith with some guys. And that defense that didn't get any interceptions last year, you have to obviously improve that unit too. So no brainer here. But I thought overall, really fun. I love mock drafts personally. I think we both love mock drafts.
Definitely.
To me, this is my favorite time of year, where it's like we got draft speculation, we got reports, what's smoke, what's not smoke. We're gonna find out in about 2 days and 3 hours here on the East Coast at 8 o'clock.
The official countdown.
So the official countdown is on here. We're about 51 hours away now. So we'll see how it goes. But I appreciate you for hopping on here and doing a fun little mock draft here, round 1 mock draft between the two of us.
Yeah, man. Of course, it was a lot of fun. I liked how this one turned out.
100%. We'll see what happens after the draft. Maybe we'll reconvene, see what our our temperature is at on both teams. Obviously, coming out of the draft, because there's always gonna be some shockers. We know it. But again, appreciate you for taking your time and doing a mock draft with us today.
Yeah, man. Of course.